Okay, so here we have a Sig P226 air pistol. BBs are pellets, and you can see the Navy SEAL symbol, I think that is right there. It's got a threaded barrel, so you could put something on there if you wanted to. Let's start off by clearing this. The way you clear a CO2 pellet gun is you check for the CO2 and make sure there's no CO2 in there. It's kind of hard to check and clear something like this, but what you do is you drop the magazine and you make sure there's no rounds, just to be safe anyway, even though there's no CO2 in it. And this is clear. The other thing is there's no port, so you can't look inside there to see if there's a BB or pellet. So I feel that checking the CO2 to make sure there's not a CO2 in, and checking to make sure the ammunition is out of the stick here should be fine. Now when loading these, all you have to do is pay attention to that notch that goes to the rear, and then you flip it like this. So when you insert it, you go like this if you're doing a reload. And some people can get pretty quick at it. I'll try to keep it on camera so you can see it here. Okay, so let's talk about this. This is double action, single action, DASA. What this means is that the first time you pull the trigger, it's a long trigger pull. You fire it, and then the slide comes back, changes it to single action. And you can see that the hammer's cocked back here, so we're going to find our reset. And our reset is pretty short right there. So then you fire again. So that's your first single action shot. And then you get 7 more. So the first time you shoot, it's a long double action pull, which means that double action means that your finger has to do the cocking of the hammer or the striker. Now this is hammer fired because it's a CO2. So the easiest way to think about single and double action is this. Double action, your finger has to do some of the work to cock the mechanism that fires the bullet or fires the BB or pellet, which means that I'm doing the work because it's double action. Single action means that the slide does the work for you. So essentially the slide is doing the work of cocking it for you, so that all you have to do is find the reset and release it. So a way to look at this pellet gun here is because it's got a magazine that rotates like a revolver, you can think of it as a double action, single action revolver. The difference is that on a single action revolver, usually you have to thumb it and then pull the trigger, whereas this, the slide pulls the hammer back for you, so all you have to do is find your reset and pull the trigger. So I know it's kind of a brain teaser, but basically what this is it's a revolver that's double action and single action. And the single action, you don't have to thumb it. The slide can thumb it for you. Unless you want to do it separately like this, then you can consider that single action right there, like a revolver. But after the first shot, double action, single action, notice the slide comes back and it cocks it for you. So it essentially thumbs the single action for you, like as if you had a revolver and you had to thumb it yourself. Well, the pistol does it for you. So it's kind of a brain teaser for you guys to get a grasp of it, I suppose. But it's a double action, single action, basically revolver, if you want to think about it that way. So semi-automatic revolver, because it's spinning. After the first shot, you work for it, but then after that, it's all single action, and it's doing the cocking for you so that you don't have to cock it. So it's an autoloader doing all the work for you. Now, let's say you're firing this, and let's say you take one shot, but you don't want to take a second shot. What you can do is you can let the trigger go forward rather than finding and riding the reset for the second shot, and you can decock it. And that's safely decocked now. So this is similar to your Beretta and, of course, the Sig here and like a Burst of Thunder, where if you decide that you don't want to fire it, you can always decock it. So if you cock it like this for an accurate single action shot, and you decide you don't want to shoot, you go like this. If you're taking two shots, you take your first shot, and your second shot, you don't want to do it, you let the trigger go forward, decock it. When you're working on your pairs, this is a great trainer. When you're working on your pairs, what you should do is you should work on double single action and try to get your two shots in the same area. So what you're going to do is you're going to fire one shot, double action, and then the second one, single action, which is going to be a shorter trigger pull. You want to work on them pairs, or what you could do is work on just double action only. That's another good way to do it too. If you just want to work on double action only, what you're going to do is you're going to pull the trigger, fire a shot, and then what you're going to do is decock it, fire another shot, fire another shot, decock it, and so on, so that you're always in double action. So pairs would be something like this: 2 shots, 4, 6, 8 shots, double action only. You do pairs with double action, single action. That's where you go 1. Oops, keep forgetting that. You go 1, 2, so that's DASA. Then what you want to do is do it over again. So you're going to let that trigger come forward. So you're going to go, let the trigger come forward, decock it, go back into double action, whoops, double action, single action, double action, single action. So you can do it that way. So if you want to change your magazines quickly, what you do is you flip it like this. So that gives you 16 rounds. Now the thing I want to talk to you about, when you put BBs in here, that's fine, but with pellets you have to understand something. You have to understand something with pellets. Crossman pellets have hard antimony in them, and these rings right here, in order for them, they got little lines inside them to hold the pellet. I would say use premium quality lead instead of Crossman pellets. Use something that's a premium type lead that doesn't have any antimony in it. You know, like Air Arms or JSB or something like that. Some soft wad cutters that you can put in here. Usually, I'd say about 7 grains. You want to keep it as light as possible. You want to stay away from lead-free pellets because they're much harder, and what they're going to do is they're going to wear out that ring quicker, so that when you push the pellets in, there's going to be play. And when you have play, you'll notice right here that right here, right after this part here, there's a forcing cone. And what could happen is if a pellet should go too far, it could clog up in that forcing cone. And what could happen is the part that pushes this to rotate it could actually, the hand that's inside of here, the hand that pushes the ratchet here, could actually get damaged. And once that hand is damaged, then it ain't going to help you getting more magazines because the gun is going to be damaged. So if you look at that hand right there, I think or not the hand, but the ratchet in there, actually the hand inside this I think is metal, and I think that this is plastic so that it holds up. But I'm just saying over time, you don't want to stress the hand out. You don't want to stress the hand, or the pawl, they call it, the pawl. So what I would do to make this last longer is use premium pellets, the soft kind that'll push in here real smoothly, not the hard type of pellets, or just use BBs. And I'm pretty sure this has got a rifled barrel, so the BBs are eventually going to wear out the rifling in the barrel, unless you guys want to just use like pellets and stuff. That'd be fine. But the velocity on this pistol, about 400 feet per second for a 7.3 grain pellet, which isn't too bad. It'll stick in wood flush, like a pine board, almost flush. So it's not too bad for plinking cans and stuff like that. The thing you have to remember too is that CO2 recovery time. When you shoot a CO2 really fast, it doesn't recover back to its normal pressure. So what's nice to do is take a shot, give it some recovery time, take a shot, give it some recovery time, so it can build up that pressure again. So, and typically what you'll do is find out how many shots that this will fire. And if you don't mind it dropping a little bit, you could go a few more shots. Me, I usually change it early because I don't like massive drops when I'm shooting a target or something. So what I do, a nifty little trick, what I do is I pre-count the pellets after I shoot them from the magazines, and I find out how many shots this will take. Like this one here is probably going to be, I suppose about 70 or something if you're not rapid firing. So I'll count 70 pellets ahead of time, and then when I run out of the pellets, then I can switch to CO2. So it's a no-brainer. All you have to remember is when you're shooting with people and training people in on this, all you have to do is when you run out of pellets, then change the CO2 and then count up another 70, another 70, another 70. And the way I do it is the best way to count pellets isn't by hand. The best way to count pellets is take a scale and put 70 pellets on a scale and then put them like in a little plastic baggie or something with the CO2. One thing about the CO2 I have to tell you guys about, the best way to do a CO2, I know it sounds kind of weird, but the best way to do a CO2 is when you put it inside here. Now this one automatically sets the CO2, but there are kinds where you're going to have to put it in and you're going to have a lever on the bottom that you have to twist right here, whereas this one's automatic. There's a lever where you have to twist. The general rule for twisting a CO2 is go very slowly, put your ear up to here, and then slowly turn till you hear a hiss. And then once you hear a hiss, go about maybe a half a turn on that. Because with CO2 pistols, air guns like this, you don't want to go overboard with tightening. If anything, you want to under-tighten instead of over-tighten. Because if you under-tighten, at least you know you can crank it a little bit more and things will be all right. But if you overdo it, the seal can get damaged inside here. And the problem with companies, I've noticed over the years, 20, 30, 40 years that I've shot CO2 pistols, is the companies are kind of, I don't know, they're kind of hard to deal with when it comes to getting seals from them. They act like, they act like you're like a big problem or something for asking and even willing to pay for the seals in the CO2 gun. But that's one of the problems with the manufacturers is they want you to shoot this thing, they want you to blow out the seal and then buy a new gun. And I wish companies would be better to people and they would at least offer to sell you the seal, even if it costs some money, that you can enjoy this pistol for many years to come and also have plenty of parts and stuff and support even years later. So this is pretty much metal. This is a very, very, very heavy CO2 gun. It's probably die-cast zinc or something like that, or aluminum. It's got an accessory rail right here. It's got the Navy SEAL symbol right here. It's got your thread right here, so you can put on a can. Now I've never shot this one with one before. I don't use them, but this isn't too loud. I mean, outside and stuff, you want to have some private property or something to shoot this, or you can actually, I think you can actually shoot this in a gun range too, if you wanted to. So that's a good thing too, is if you ever wanted to shoot it at a gun range, you'd be okay, I think, because it's just lead. But yes, very heavy. And the reason why it's a good trainer is because you can teach people trigger discipline. You know, my finger's off the trigger until I'm on target and I'm aware of what's beyond the target. Then I can fire. So when you're on target, you're on trigger. When you're off target, you're off trigger. In a real defense situation, you don't want to necessarily be on trigger because you're on target. You want to be on target, ready to go on trigger. You want to be in a ready position like this to go on trigger if there is a threat. So in some ways, on target, on trigger won't apply if you're like in a defense situation, at least not always. So you want to be aware of that. So that's one of the reasons why when you're shooting this pistol, sometimes it's good to say stop. Just yell stop and pretend that somebody's attacking you. And you got your finger here and you say stop or I'll shoot or whatever. And then kind of get your mindset so that you have the discipline of having this if you have a home defense situation where you have to shoot, so that you're not on the trigger, on target, because that applies to the range, but it doesn't apply to self-defense, because self-defense, you might be here. The person might be too far away. They might not be a threat. They might just be, you know, if they break in or something, obviously, you know, you have reason to at least point at them, but not necessarily shoot them. So that's one thing you have to understand. You never want to point unless it's immediate danger or threat to your life. You want to keep it in the holster until it's immediate unavoidable danger. But this certainly can be a training tool for many people. And what I recommend for training is I'll show you some of the targets that I kind of made for air guns that can hold up to the pellets and not break. They will dent, but they'll hold up for a long, long time before you have to replace them. So what I did is I took some stovepipe, because sheet metal sometimes is expensive and it's hard to find, and when you buy a sheet of sheet metal, they want you to buy a big piece. So what you do is you take a piece of stovepipe, which I did here. Stovepipe comes in a round shape like a pipe, and you can unfold it, pound it down flat, and you can make these targets here. So for instance, here is a 1-inch steel target right here. Here's a 2-inch, here's a 3, here's a 4, here's a 5. Now, typically the size of the human heart or a good organ shot as far as vitals would be a 4-inch target like this, and because self-defense distance is about 7 yards and in, with some exceptions, maybe 10-15 yards, but most self-defense situations are 10 yards and in. You want to use this 4-inch target right here. And if you're better than 4 inches at 10 yards, then I would go down to the smaller ones here. But you want to have some kind of incapacitation standard, which means if you had a piece of cover, let's say that you have a piece of cover and you have 2 targets like this, put 2 shots on these representing the heart and the chest or something like that. And then what you could do for the brain is, some people, between the eyes and the ears, some people say that, you know, you should probably use maybe a 3-inch on that, because it's smaller. The target area that you want is smaller in between the eyes and the ears, because headshots aren't necessarily an immediate stop. But that's not to say that heart shots aren't immediate stops either, because heart shots, like the 4-inch heart, it drops the blood pressure, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the blood that's in the brain doesn't have oxygen, it still has oxygen, so the person can still fight and do things. So we all know this from like deer hunting and stuff like that. The fact is that if you shoot something in the heart, it's not necessarily going to be a one-shot stop. So you have to be aware of that. Self-defense situations, at least we want to try to hit the vitals, because there's a greater chance if we hit the vitals that the threat will be stopped. And of course I know that the heart has a network of arteries and stuff like that, like up here and down here. Of course I know that, but I'm just saying having a standard of incapacitation is something good to go by. So anyway, this pistol can last you guys a long time if you take care of it and you do things the right way. And never put motor oil on the seal. Motor oil on the seal inside here could probably eat up that seal. So what you want to do inside there is, you don't necessarily have to go inside there, but just on your CO2, put a little bit of silicone oil on the top of the CO2 or something that's not motor oil, because motor oil sometimes can eat up your seals, depending on what kind of seal they got in here. I think they have a Teflon or some kind of different type of rubber seal inside here. I don't know if you can see it, it's white. So, but anyway, this is self-adjusted here. It's already adjusted at the factory, I think. So, and it's actually been working really good for me. It actually goes in really good and it seals all the time. So anyway, this thing is a very, very heavy. I'm serious, you guys. As a matter of fact, the real gun, it's probably the same weight. I wouldn't doubt it if it's the same weight. And this is made in Japan, by the way. But this is something that you can count out pellets and CO2s for each person that you're going to be shooting it with and doing a competition with. I would recommend you doing run and gun with this one and competition type shooting things. And as far as a belt, if you're going to compete with people on a low price, as far as a belt, what I recommend is Pyramid Air. There's a thing called UTG, a UTG duty belt. You want to get that, and then just one of them holsters to go with it. And the holsters are like $7-8, and the duty belt is, I think, anywhere from $14 to $20. So very, very inexpensive. And then that way, each person can put on the belt, and you can slide the gun on the right side or left side, whatever they're using. And then they can draw from that belt that they have around them. And it's the type of belt that you don't have to put through your pants loops. It's the type of belt that goes around your belly. So you strap yourself. It's on the outside of your pants. So you strap it. And let me show you it. I'll go get it too. So I'll show you what it looks like. I took all the accessories off, but I'll show you what the belt looks like. Okay, here's a cheapy holster. It's only like $7-8 on Pyramid Air. You see that? And it is heavy, so you really got to crank on the belt and adjust it right. This is a place for a spare mag, and this goes around your belt right here, the duty belt, and I'll show you the duty belt now. The duty belt does come with two UTG. This does come with two magazine holders, not like the one that I showed you, but a couple magazine holders that go on the side here and stuff like that. So it does come with that, so that's kind of nice. But anyway, you put it around your gut just like that, and you adjust the Velcro right here to fit any person. And this is a good way for, inexpensively, for people to compete with air guns. You can buy this for $14 to $20, and then you can get the holster here. And if you're doing real firearms, obviously you're going to get a better holster and a better belt, but this belt is something to get you started on a budget so that you can get out there. And everybody's got a duty belt, everybody's got a holster so that everybody can compete with each other, having 70 rounds, having a CO2. And like I said, make it so that it's hard on yourself. Make it so that accuracy counts over everything else. Making good shots instead of trying to use time, for example, as far as who could win just because they're faster. Try to have some kind of a standard so that your accuracy has to count too with your speed. So what you could do is you could limit your ammo. If you're doing stages, for instance, let's say you only got 2 shots for that 4-inch target right here. And let's say that if you miss the target after the second shot, then you have to stop and count your points, because you can't go forward if you can't incapacitate the target. So, for example, if I'm given 2 shots and I can't hit this in 2 shots, then I count up my points and my time. But if I can hit this 2 times at 10 yards, then I can keep going, or 7 yards, or whatever you guys decide for a standard. Then I can keep going. The thing you don't want to do is you don't want to make it so that the speed can win and you can sacrifice accuracy for speed. That's a terrible thing to do, because it's a mindset that teaches you the wrong way. And this is often in competition shooting. A lot of times they let you get away with this. And it's basically it's the wrong way to train, because when you're slicing the pie, you want to make sure that the threat is down with 2 good hits to the heart or some kind of standard of incapacitation before you transfer over to the next target and the next target. But all at the same time, that first target, you want to not be exposed to targets number 2 and 3 while you're engaging the first target, trying to get 2 hits to incapacitate target number 1. So that's a big brain teaser for you guys. The stuff I'm talking about, hopefully it's not, but anyway, that's just my thoughts on this. So tell me what you think about competition as far as air guns. If you're doing it, you can make your own little club. You can do it outside, you can do it indoors. That's the benefit of CO2 air guns, is you can set up safe backstops to shoot inside the house, and have little teams right inside your basement where you can practice shooting and have little competition sports right inside the house. The CO2 isn't going to hurt anything, so you don't have to worry about much, and the lead exposure isn't really too bad either. But like I said, this is BB or pellet, so you can make it just BBs only. Although the accuracy might be different. You can bench rest it. You can bench rest it at 10 yards and see where the groups are. And let's say if the groups are bigger than 4 inches, let's say that the groups are 5 inches, then obviously what we're going to have to do at 10 yards is we can still use the 4-inch target, but we could probably move it back to 7 yards until it's accurate enough to engage that standard of incapacitation, which is 4 inches. So that's just some ideas thrown out to you guys. Tell me what you think. And anyway, this should be something fun for you guys to use, or you can use other ones too. You don't necessarily have to use something like this with a slide. There's some air guns that shoot BBs and pellets, and the slide doesn't reciprocate. Is that the word? But you still get trigger training, okay? You still get sight alignment, trigger pull, running, decision making, aiming, all that stuff you get. The only difference is some of them guns you won't get any recoil. This does recoil a little bit, but what I'm saying is that at least you have some kind of training. It's not exactly up to par with the real thing, but at least you can get some training on something like this, so that it does make a big difference when you finally get to real guns. And that's been proven that's been proven over and over again, especially by people that have trained airsoft in Japan, that have come over to the United States, they've proven that they catch on very, very quickly. It's because of air guns that they caught on quickly, and they were able to be even better than some of the professional shooters that have been shooting over here as far as learning quicker and getting it down pat quicker than even some other shooters have that have been in the sport for years and years. So once again, this is Sig P226 Navy SEAL emblem right there. You got your thread adapter here. You got your all metal, very, very heavy, good set of sights. Trigger isn't exactly, anything like real light or anything, but it's got some pull to it. But anyway, that's what you get for air guns, because it's got a CO2 and it's got to have enough to hammer that valve for the CO2 open enough so it can let the pellet out. So a light strike, it would give it a low velocity, so you really need a good hammer bite on that valve for the CO2. But anyway, thanks for watching, you guys.